Good morning, everybody. It's super to see so many people on a Sunday coming out for this great session, pre-conference, and in particular, we look forward to giving you a bit of an overview here of evaluation, performance measurement, and reporting at CIC, or I guess I'm going to have to get used to saying IRCC. It's still taking a little bit to click in, even back at our place, so bear with me as I go through that. So a little bit of an overview of what it means, performance measurement for us, and then with a view to the settlement program evaluation, of which many of you are very interested in, I'm sure. So I'll give you a bit of that, and then I'll pass it over to my colleagues to talk about reporting side of things, and Martha will talk a little bit about iCare, which is an extremely important and useful tool for us. So that's a bit of the sense of where we're going this morning. We have about an hour in total, so we'll try to get to the questions in due time, but lots to throw at you. We're covering a lot of topics. I do hope you find it interesting. So maybe to start off with a little overview here, you see a couple of boxes that present some concepts on evaluation and performance measurement. There are many definitions out there, many concepts and ways to apply it. We've just put down a few principles here that we sort of ascribe to at CIC, showing the differences in between these activities. Evaluation, if you think about that, is more of a systematic approach to reporting on results, typically in a cycle of 3-5 years or so, based on Treasury Board policies. So I'm going to be talking a lot from the federal perspective, what IRCC does and how it approaches evaluation. So on about a 5-year cycle, most programs need to be evaluated, trying to show value for money, how the expected results been achieved, what exactly are we getting for our investments, and what is happening out there, with a view to making improvements. Our role as the evaluators at the department is to provide credible evidence base to senior management, to program managers, to let them make decisions to course correct or to redesign or fix programs if something is not working entirely properly. We do have a regular department evaluation committee to which we report, so we get those results up to senior management in a regular, timely way as well. And of course, all of our evaluations are public documents and eventually posted, so we've left a little link there for you. You can access them anytime. They're really full of good information. They demonstrate the results that have been achieved in our reports, so we invite you to look at those anytime you can. On the performance measurement side of things, we're talking about something a little more ongoing and a little more regular. So evaluation comes in and takes a bit of a retrospective snapshot, looking back at the past years and seeing what kind of performance there was for these programs or policies. Performance measurement, on the other hand, is really intended to be regular monitoring and reporting so that you're not waiting for that retrospective look, for that evaluation. That said, you need solid performance measurement to inform the evaluation, so you start to see how they kind of click in together. A very important piece. Often we want to make those course corrections for programs in a timely way. It could be little things. It could be developing research or analysis or data that will help inform policy decisions. And that's become more and more and more important at IRCC. The last few years, you might have noticed the speed of change at the department, when many programs, many policies, legislation being changed, introduced. To inform that, regular performance measurement is crucial. Good data is crucial. Evaluation results are crucial. So the spotlight really is on performance measurement and evaluation, and what you contribute to plays a part in that as well, and we'll get to that in a moment. I just want to point out here too that performance measurement, while it has many definitions, we consider it quite broadly at IRCC in that it involves financial information, qualitative, quantitative. There's many sources. It is trying to focus on results and reporting something, not just collecting data for the sake of collecting data, but with a view to how are you doing with what you said you would set out to achieve. A little diagram here to illustrate one view of a performance monitoring and reporting cycle. You see it does go around, beginning with policy and program design. So stopping to think about how you might want to design or redesign a program. The first thing you should really focus on is what are we trying to achieve? What are those expected results? Intended outcomes, there's different language around that. And in an ideal world, you can articulate that in some way. Some of you might have heard of a thing called a logic model, which expresses these things, and I'll get into that in a moment. And at the same time, you'd ideally want to develop a performance measurement strategy. It could be big or small. It can take any shape. There are many, many ways to skin a cat in terms of performance measurement strategies. A PMS, unfortunately, titled by Treasury Board. They used to be called RMAFs for those who are around a little while, Results-Based Management Accountability Frameworks. It is outlining your key indicators, what we want to measure to report on results and with a view to evaluation questions down the road. To support that, you need a very robust data strategy, data tools, a way to collect that data. Indicators without some supporting foundational data strategy is not going to get you very far. Many years ago, we had some difficulties at the department where there's a lack of good data to report on results, and I would come in with the evaluation group and we'd say, no, we can't make good conclusions here. There's not enough data to let us do that in a way that we can stand behind. We've come miles ahead at IRCC now, but just to stress that the data underlying this is crucial. It would be better to have a few key indicators that you can report on confidently with robust data than have a plethora of things that is a meaningless scorecard. And we've seen these things crumble on themselves and put on the shelf if they're not really useful and relevant. So take those tools together. You're collecting data regularly. You're pulling out these little stories, performance stories, big and small, ad hoc or periodic, doesn't matter. That's part of your ongoing reporting. That is key. It lets you have a signal. You can stop for a second, take stock, and say, wait a minute, maybe we need to consider another option, another direction. And that ideally is happening in a regular way, quarterly, annually, whatever the case may be, and whatever suits your management or your program needs. It doesn't have to be just for higher ups. It could be for yourself, for your analysis and betterment. And then, of course, as I said, in a regular way, evaluation comes in, and we'll take a look at what's happened the past few years and try to present that story by triangulating numerous lines of evidence, doing some primary research, and really filling out the picture and saying, yeah, we did what we said we would achieve, or maybe we didn't, and we need to think of other things. So a little bit now on these performance measurement strategies, just these important tools. And I've seen them in many sectors, federal government, private sector, NGO, so I know they exist, they're out there, and they're extremely valuable. They can be a lightweight, few-page model. I've seen deluxe Cadillac ones as well, just to let you know that it is important to have perhaps a strategy that outlines what you're trying to achieve. It's a bit of a roadmap. It's a guide to say, yeah, this is the things we want to measure. This is when we're going to check in. This is what we think they are. Here's some targets. It puts a framework around performance measurement. So that's essentially what a PM strategy is. It's comprised of components. You've heard of a logic model, hopefully, which is an articulation of expected results that are brought about by activities that you undertake for your program or policy, and it also highlights some of your key activities. You typically have a performance measurement strategy, actually outlining those indicators with data sources, and a bit of a sense of an evaluation strategy as well. What you want to know down the road, like how have we achieved those midterm or long-term results. In terms of the settlement program, the one that we're most interested in at CIC right now and today especially, we developed a PM strategy several years ago in 2013. At the time, the terms and conditions for the program were being revisited and re-signed. So it's a very robust piece. So it's available. We can share it with you. I'm sure some of you have seen it. It really outlined our path for the last few years in terms of data we want to collect and measurement. As well, I do note, and CIC has participated in developing these, there's a logic model, or it's called a theory of change for local immigration partnerships, LIPS, which theory of change is essentially the same thing. So that's great, and we've appended that at the back of this deck. And the Réseaux en immigration francophone, the RIF group, also has its own logic model. So this is wonderful. You think about these I'll get it right, I swear. These things are great to see that people have been able to think about what they're trying to achieve. It gives you a bit of direction, so we're happy to be able to participate and support those. So these are in existence, and these are guiding the evaluation, which I will get to in just a moment. Now, that second part of the cycle, and you can see in the top right corner, we talked about data and the importance of it. So just a couple of notes here on data strategies and tools that we find very useful at CIC that we work with regularly, and that will also inform and be a key piece of the evaluation. iCare, I hope most of you have heard of iCare by now. My colleague Martha will talk to you a little bit about that today, and there's a session later as well that will dive into the iCare. Amazing, amazing tool. This is something we haven't had before at IRCC. It really allows us to track settlement clients in a way we never have been able to do before, both in terms of services received, the intensity of service, the demographic information. It's just a wealth of knowledge, just to touch on the surface a little bit, that will permit in-depth analysis down the road. You just think about the ways you can slice the data, and it gets very exciting. So this key system is administered through the service provider organizations. They input the information there when a client receives a settlement service, and that gets relayed back to CIC, and we have this humongous system whereby we track that. So just think about the reach it has and what can tell us down the road. Another element that we'll speak to in a moment with my integration branch colleagues are the annual project performance reports, APPRs. These are performance reports on direct services that service providers complete on an annual basis in a standardized template format. Again, very rich in information, something we also fully intend to analyze and use in the settlement evaluation. I mean, these things are just chock full of little tidbits that you wouldn't be able to get in another way. So it's another form of reporting, another form of regular performance measurement, because they are tied, in fact, to the contribution agreements and the funding received. So demonstrating results annually, but also we'll have some utility for the evaluation. You know, a great data tool. And very similar to these are the APRCPs, the Annual Performance Report for Community Partnerships. So this is looking more at the community and the partnership aspects of performance and reporting. All of these pieces, very key for us at CIC, IRCC, for ongoing results, getting specific information where needed, and then we're going to really bundle them together for evaluation purposes. I'll give you a couple of words on the APPRs here, those reports. As I said, it's a standardized narrative report, so it is more qualitative, if you will, although there's a tool that was developed through consultations about 4 or 5 years ago, as the box indicates to you, in 2010-11. Trying to be a little more consistent, so CIC was able to apply this nice format. I mean, we might have some comments about that and the difficulties with it, but it allows extraction of data a little more simply and analysis and reporting across results the same way in a consistent manner. So we were striving to really kind of make that a little more uniform and standardized. It really serves us, as I said, in many ways. It was a key indicator and data source for the performance measurement strategy for the program, so it's being looked at all the time, and it will be one of the cornerstones of our analysis for the evaluation as well, because it really gets us into corners of the program that we wouldn't be able to reach previously. So maybe with that, I'll take a little pause and hand it over to one of our colleagues here. Marie-Ève is going to talk to you a little bit about the partnerships report.
Do you hear me? Oui, vous m'entendez? OK. Donc, moi et Alicia, nous allons vous parler davantage du rapport annuel sur le rendement des partenariats communautaires. Je vais parler plus en français, Alicia plus en anglais. Donc, effectivement, c'est en 2012-2013 que je vais dire CIC parce que je ne me suis pas encore habituée à IRCC. Donc, que CIC a mis en place le rapport annuel sur les rendements des partenariats communautaires. Ce rapport-là est destiné aux organisations qui reçoivent du financement de CIC pour mettre en place des partenariats communautaires dans leur région. On pense aux partenariats locaux en immigration et aux réseaux en immigration francophone. Le processus d'élaboration du gabarit a été le fruit de consultations et de présentations auprès de représentants de CIC, mais aussi auprès de représentants du secteur de l'établissement. Ça, c'est quelque chose que les coordonnateurs des réseaux m'ont souvent entendu dire. Donc, contrairement au rapport trimestriel, qui est plus là pour faire le suivi des dépenses, des RIF et des plis, le rapport annuel, lui, s'intéresse plus aux activités de ces partenariats-là, mais aussi à leur impact sur les nouveaux arrivants et les communautés. Du point de vue des politiques et de l'évaluation, comme l'a dit David, c'est un outil qui est très précieux pour nous fournir des renseignements sur le travail des partenariats, les tendances relatives à leurs activités, l'évolution des besoins des nouveaux arrivants, les défis, les succès rencontrés, et aussi les lacunes dans les services qu'il peut y avoir au niveau régional. Donc, nous, on a déjà tiré 3 analyses de ces rapports-là. La première analyse a porté sur les partenariats locaux en immigration et couvrait l'année 2008-2013. 2008, ça partait de 2008 parce que c'était plus du contexte là, qui était donné sur les plis. Par la suite, il y a eu un travail conjoint avec la FCFA pour faire une analyse préliminaire des rares pour les rapports annuels de rendement pour l'année 2013-2014. Et cette année, pour les réseaux en immigration francophone, on va avoir une analyse plus complète pour l'année 2014-2015 et on va valider les résultats avec les coordonnateurs des RIF. Et ça sera également présenté lors du Conseil national en établissement. Que dire d'autre? Ah oui, vous avez un encadré sur le côté de la diaporama. In the box, you have the different titles of the section of this tool. So I would just give you some example of the question of the kind of information that we can collect. So under partnership inputs and capacity development, we can collect information on in-kind contribution, the human resources that support the work of the partnership, such as volunteers, the structure of the partnership, the different committees, which sectors are represented. Under the strategy development, we gather information on the process by which the partnership identified the needs of newcomers and the community assets and gaps, and all the strategic plans address these needs and gaps. In the implementation and community impact section, we collect information on activities that have been implemented by the LIP and the RIF, and the changes visible in the community as a result of their action. We have information on the way partnership impacted the creation of new collaboration, collaborative relationship, and how it has influenced the structures, the policies, the activities at the municipal, regional level, or of other institutions. For example, we have a question. Has the municipal or regional government officially endorsed or expressed its support for the strategy or the action plan? This question is more related to the LIPS activities. Donc, parfois, c'est une difficulté parce que pour les réseaux, les réseaux d'immigration francophone ont moins une portée municipale, tandis que les plis ont plus une portée au niveau du quartier, de la municipalité. Donc, ça peut être une difficulté que j'ai observée du côté des réseaux de répondre à cette question-là parce qu'on n'a pas nécessairement cette attente-là, bien que de plus en plus les réseaux engagent les municipalités. Il y a une section supplémentaire dans le rapport qui est destinée aux réseaux également, qui porte sur les activités de promotion et de recrutement que font les membres du réseau pour engager les employeurs afin d'attirer des immigrants francophones, de les encourager à embaucher des immigrants francophones. Donc ça, c'est une dimension du travail des réseaux qui va au-delà du programme d'établissement et qui touche les objectifs de la feuille de route sur les langues officielles. Donc, on pourra en reparler. Donc, pourquoi faire ça? Pour nous, c'est un outil précieux, comme je vous ai dit, parce que ça nous permet de dresser un portrait des partenariats, d'identifier des pratiques exemplaires, de déterminer les progrès. Juste un exemple, pour les progrès, on remarquait dans la dernière analyse 2014-2015 que maintenant, au sein des réseaux en immigration francophone, il y a des représentants des provinces sur pratiquement tous les RIF. Donc, pour nous, ça nous apparaît une belle évolution. Ça nous donne un indice que les provinces s'intéressent de plus en plus à l'immigration francophone. Et c'est aussi une opportunité pour les réseaux d'influencer aussi les décisions qui peuvent être prises au niveau des provinces. Donc, ça nous semble très positif. C'est un complément à ce qu'on tente de faire au niveau fédéral. Mais on est conscient qu'il y a des défis ainsi que des bons côtés. Et c'est Alicia, ma collègue, qui va vous en parler.
Okay, so the next slide, as Marie-Ève mentioned, we use these questionnaires, this template, to really feed the policy direction that we're taking with the program. We realize, though, that when an organization, and that can be, we recognize, too, that LIPs and RIFs, they're based in different types of organizations. Of course, it's not always a settlement service provider. A LIP can be based in a municipal office or a nonprofit like the United Way. So each organization is really different, and the challenge for us is to really create a template or a questionnaire that can really capture all these differences to make sure we're getting a really rich picture of what's going on. So I just thought I'd highlight some of the strengths and challenges that exist with this questionnaire, with the document itself, and maybe in your table discussions you'll be able to kind of delve into them a little bit further. So right away, a big strength of this template is that it captures the local trends that are going on in your communities. This is really important information for us, particularly at headquarters, where we aren't able to have this contact with you in the field on a daily basis. So it's important for us, from a policy perspective, to just get these insights from you and And I have to say it's been very helpful for me on this file. I just took it over in the spring, and it's been a great way to kind of get to know what's going on in each of the communities. The other piece, and Maddie, I've already touched on it, is to know what are the contributions that your partners are making. So the local immigration partnerships and the RIFs, they work with different stakeholders, and it's helpful to know what contributions are being made by each of those stakeholders. Maddie, I've touched on the in-kind contributions, so that can be space for you to hold your meetings. It can be financial contributions as well for activities that are guided by the LIP. So it's really valuable for us to know what is going on at that level. It also provides an important opportunity for your partners and for yourselves to provide feedback to CIC or IRCC about how the partnership is working for you. And particularly with organizations at sort of different stages of implementing their partnership, if you're in the early stages, it's really helpful for us to know, are you getting that buy-in that you're looking for? Are the provinces and municipalities coming to the table? What are some of the challenges associated with getting them to participate? And what are the success stories, too? We want to hear the good news. In terms of challenges, we've heard from you and from colleagues that the open-ended structure of the questions can sometimes be a bit of a challenge. Certainly when I've gone through the answers, I see that there is a lot of repetition. The first part of the form captures activities that you're doing, and very often those are also your success stories that you're asked for again at the end of the form. So we realize that there might be some room for improvement there in terms of streamlining the questions. The other thing that gets raised quite often is just the challenges associated with capturing what some of the community impacts are of your partnership's work. So some organizations, they reach out to their members, they use surveys, they consult with newcomers themselves to know what exactly is the impact of the partnership, the LIP or the RIF in the community. So there might be an opportunity here to share some more best practices among the organizations, just so you know what is working for some LIPs and RIFs and what's not. So definitely there's an opportunity here to share some best practices. And then the final sort of last bit of challenge with outcomes is, of course, in the form we talk about, well, what's the impact on the newcomer directly? And that's hard for you to know from where you're sitting, because we understand that it's an indirect service, it's a partnership, you don't work with newcomers on a daily basis. So some more thought could be given to how that's being framed and captured, and how we can help you maybe to understand what the impact is at the newcomer level. And then there's one last point that I think Marie-Ève wanted to touch on.
Oui, rapidement, je l'ai déjà un peu mentionné, c'est qu'une difficulté qui a été remarquée, c'est que le rapport n'est pas vraiment aligné avec le modèle logique des réseaux, et tout le rapport est fait pour informer sur les résultats du programme d'établissement. Mais pour les réseaux, ces résultats-là font partie de leur modèle logique, mais il y a aussi des résultats ultimes qui sont liés à la feuille de route sur les langues officielles, qui sont notamment d'accroître le nombre d'immigrants francophones au sein des communautés francophones, et ce qui fait qu'ils peuvent être amenés à faire des activités de sensibilisation qui est pour aider à favoriser une transition des étudiants internationaux et des temporaires vers la résidence permanente, pour que ceux-ci puissent éventuellement s'établir dans des communautés. Donc ça, c'est au-delà du programme d'établissement, et pour les coordonnateurs, je pense que ça ne doit pas être facile de rapporter sur ces activités-là et ces succès-là aussi. Mais comme l'a mentionné Alicia, ce qui est bien, c'est qu'on sait que le rapport sera transféré dans iCare, donc ça va être une opportunité de l'ajuster, ce formulaire-là, et on est ouvert aujourd'hui à entendre votre rétroaction.
Thank you. Merci bien. As you can see, very important pieces for ongoing measurement reporting. It'll play a part in the evaluation, so I think that came out in what you heard there. A couple thoughts here on ongoing monitoring reporting. So we've got all these data sources. We're collecting some data, and where does it end up being reported? Just a few highlights to mention here. Some of you might be familiar with the public reporting that the federal departments do. You've heard of a DPR, Departmental Performance Report, or the Annual Report on Plans and Priorities, the RPP. So those get made public every year, and some results are reported there, fed by this kind of data and performance measurement. All sorts of internal reporting, which has become more and more key, as I said. Senior management wants to know quickly and often what's happening with the program, or one little slice of it. And then, of course, the bigger picture program reports like audits and evaluations. So a couple thoughts, just an overview of program evaluation. I'll try to speed this up a little bit here. Sorry, folks. Treasury Board policy guides program evaluation of the federal government. So we have an obligation to report on every program in the department, or all direct program spending, 100% of it on a 5-year cycle. So if you can wrap your head around what an evaluation function needs to do, it's quite a massive task. But that said, we still maintain our commitment to timely reporting to senior management. And more our focus has been on performance, as I said. There's relevance questions, a continued need for a program. How is it connected with government or priorities or other government department roles? Who should be delivering it? And then, what are the outcomes? What have we been achieving with this program, with this investment, with this policy? So that's really where evaluation focuses its time. And as I said, our stuff is posted publicly, always available. So there's that. Now, we've spent some time, a bit of an overview on performance measurement evaluation in broader terms, turning attention to a very key item for us, and many of you, keen interest, no doubt, is the settlement program evaluation. You've seen me talk about this before in various venues. It's been on our departmental radar for 2 or 3 years now. This is a massive program for CIC, for all of you. Massive investment. We're talking about $650 million a year. Current contribution money over a 5-6 year period, that's billions of dollars. So, needless to say, this is going to have many people's attention in the department and outside. So it's been on our horizon for a long time. Therefore, you can imagine all the complexities of the program. We have to engage in this quite heavily and use many lines of evidence, and just listing some of them here. Eye care data will be key because that lets us talk about our settlement clients. We are developing a settlement client outcome survey, so this brand new exciting tool, which I can talk to you a bit offline if you want to know more about it. But essentially, we're going out to directly speak with clients on their experience with the program, but also what does it enable them to do? It's not just, did you like your language instructor? This is, have you been able to do activity X, Y, or Z because of the intervention you received? And then do some analysis around that. Of course, extensive mapping we would like to be able to do. Interviews is a standby for any evaluation, so many of you, your organizations will be involved in that regard. Extensive document review, and these documents, APPRs, and the community reports will be part of that. It's important to remember in the settlement program, it's not just the program itself, but we want to understand the context. So these kind of things will be contributing to that, other pieces of research and whatnot we want to bring into the picture. All that to say, you can see it's going to be a very massive evaluation, and our running joke on my side and our evaluation team is that every one of my team members in 2016-17 when we launched this will be working on that, and that's 14 people. So kind of unheard of scale for an evaluation, but it's got to be done because we need to know about this program and its very elements. So going down one level, and one primary area of focus in the evaluation will be the local immigration partnerships, the LIPs. This was signaled a long time ago through various consultations inside and outside the department of the importance of LIPs. So we're taking some extra effort and energy to take a case study approach to them. By that I mean a deep dive, plus en profondeur, si vous voulez, to look at success factors, challenges, and whatnot. And there's a great session this afternoon in the evening, at which I understand you'll be discussing some of these things, so that's very important to understand. And very similarly, we want to be looking at the RIFs, the Réseaux, but these were going to be parked in a different evaluation because their outcomes, their expected results, line up a little bit better and bundle a little bit more nicely with the OLMC's, the Official Language Minority Communities Initiative Evaluation, which is happening concurrently, so we're going to launch that one about the same time. But just to signal that we are looking at RIFs in a very deep way as well, but just in a different context, a different evaluation. Now, a few thoughts on a case study of lips, again, of interest to folks here, no doubt. So this is our more in-depth look. When I say case study, it means we'd like to spend extra time and have numerous lines of evidence to really unpack what's happening with lips, what are the success factors, and what is the result story here. So we want to look at things like the governance and who's involved, what are the structures, some of the things Alicia and Mary Eve talked to, like who's participating, what kind of action plans have been implemented, and so forth, strategies, what is the reach, all these kind of key factors want to be understood. And you can see listing a few lines of evidence there for you. We do want to do a survey of LIP members and LIP coordinators. We are doing some site visits or a case study within the bigger case study. Literature, document review. We'll take on board anything that's being produced, that's showing results, that's explaining what's happening out there to understand, again, the achievement or challenges being experienced. We're going to do some mapping exercise again to show where the service providers are, what coverage area the LIP has, and so forth. So just a quick overview of some of the lines of evidence there. And very similarly, we are going to take the same approach, an in-depth look at les réseaux, again, as another evaluation. But you can see many lines of evidence, and that's why we call it a case study. It's a deep dive, focused a little bit differently on some of the other expected results, but they are lined up with the previous logic model. So there's certain things we are trying to achieve together, through RIF, and we will be looking at that: the coordination, mobilization, again, what partners involved, reach, all those key questions. But this is just to give you a little flavor of how we plan to attack that. Now you're asking yourself, well, how can I contribute to this very big evaluation? I've got a story to tell, and of that I have no doubt, and we would welcome all input we can get during the next year and a half or so. But just to note here that some ways that we are planning to do this, and our methodology is not completely set in stone. We welcome more inputs along the way. For LIPS case studies, we have had to whittle it down to about a nice representative cross-section, and we're down to about 9 site visits. But just because we might not be visiting your location does not mean you will not have an opportunity to participate. There'll be ample chance to give your thoughts, your reports, be interviewed, be surveyed. But in order to get a nice cross-section, we had to develop a bit of a typology, look for more mature LIP and more newly established ones, big and small, and get some geographic representation. So I do apologize if you're not in our Great 9 list here, but we do have some that just to be transparent about it. This is where we plan to visit in the next 3-4 months. But everyone else is on our list to be contacted to contribute their documents, their results. It's just we're getting a better sense on the ground in a few locations for various factors I mentioned. In terms of the RIF case study, there are fewer of them, of course, out there, and we do plan to do a bit of a census, a bit of a survey there of all the coordinators and interviews as well, so we want to get a feeling through some of our data collection that way. And there are other ways to participate for service providers for the SPOs in the evaluation. So moving away from the case studies, we're going to do a SPO survey. So we're going to blanket everybody with some questionnaires there. We would invite people to send us their reports and their research, as I said, to build that context piece and tell us your story. So just trying to demonstrate that there are numerous ways and sources of data that will be collected. Now, looking forward, our way forward from here, our LIP case study is launching very slowly. We've sent out a communique actually in November to coordinators and LIPs out there, so some of you may have seen that, and we're trying to hit the ground November, December, January, February as schedules allow, and take into consideration the refugee Syrian crisis right now is affecting a lot of people's availability, but we will get out there. We're going to launch the RIF case study very shortly in December, so some of you will be contacted in no time. And in the sort of further future, the evaluation should be completed by March 2017. So most of our data collection has to be done by the fall so we can really analyze the wealth of information we're going to be receiving and collecting. A little bit of a contact information there at the bottom. Again, my name is Dave Kurfurst. I'm the Director of Evaluation at IRCC, so you can reach me anytime. And Kim Bachman is Assistant Director, and she'll be project managing the heck out of this beast. So we're available to talk to you at any point. This is an open process. The evaluation is going to serve the department, it's going to serve the public, it's going to serve the sector, and anyone is involved. So, please feel free to contact us on anything that you've seen here, questions you have down the road. After you receive some of our communications and outreach, we do invite everyone's participation to fill out the story. It's crucially important, so I just want to stress that. So there's our contact information. A couple of goodies there in terms of annexes for logic models, if you want to look at those. And then maybe to speed this along, the table discussions that Jean mentioned are there. So food for thought. I'll wrap it up in a quick breath, but please come and see me. I'll be here all day. Kim Bachman is here as well. Martha will talk to you about eye care momentarily. I probably ate into her time. I'm sorry, Martha. But please come and see me. We want to hear your views on where we're headed with this evaluation. So with that, maybe I'll stop here.